Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We're sharing expert advice and practical tips that'll improve your cattle production. Plus, we'll highlight some of NCBA's producer education programs and how they can add value to your farm or ranch.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association takes great pride in making sure producers stay on top of the latest production and management techniques to help them through the daily challenges of our industry. And joining us now to discuss these efforts is Josh White. He's the Senior Executive Director of Producer Education and Sustainability for NCBA. Josh, thanks for coming to the show.
Always a pleasure to join you, Kevin.
So why is producer education such a top priority for NCBA?
Well, we're all about being a leader in the industry, and we hear from our producers out in the country every year when we do surveys that our advocacy efforts in DC are number one priority for them and our role there. But right underneath that is producer education and communication, really letting them know what's the latest coming down the pike in research and even products and different things that can help them make a profit and stay in business. So we try to do our part with bringing them current information.
And you do a great job. One of my favorite programs, of course, is Cattlemen's College. I'm curious, how do you and your team constantly come up with the programming and the speakers to invite to that event?
Yeah, there's a few elements to that. Number one, we ask for input through a survey every year at Cattlemen's College. We also survey attendees at other programs that we're going to talk about today. So we're constantly getting feedback from producers on what they want to hear about, what they want to hear more about, less about, if it's reacting to that year's lineup of speakers and topics. But we also have an open call for speakers and topics. After Cattlemen's College each year wraps up, we go through a period of a few months where we're basically saying, hey, if you're in academia, if you're a company that thinks you have something innovative to offer, or just a producer that you've heard a great speaker at the local level and you think they should be elevated to national, programming, then let us know about it. So we get a lot of suggestions in through that.
You can nominate yourself or others to be part of that program. That's outstanding. Stockmanship and Stewardship, that's another popular program. It's back again. Tell us more about these events.
We bring those all around the country. So, included in that is cattle handling demonstrations. We've got a little elevated focus on grazing management right now, thinking about that whole sustainability narrative and how important that is. So we bring in a lot of producers and outside subject matter experts on all these topics. And of course, getting BQA certified, handling cattle, hearing the latest in nutrition, and all over the country. Be sure and check it out at stockmanshipandstewardship.org. Folks can find out all about them.
And for those viewers who may say, hey, I'd love to, but I really can't afford to, there is a way to get reimbursed for coming to some of these educational programs, correct?
That's right. And we hope more people will take advantage of that. It's called the Ranchers Resilience Grant. Mm-hmm. You can find it, all the info under the producer tab at ncba.org. There's probably 8 or 10 events listed right now that producers can be reimbursed their registration fee and the hotel costs.
Wow.
All the stockmanship and stewardship events are on there, plus some King Ranch events. We've got a couple of grazing conferences this year that are eligible. So be sure and check that out. Beef Improvement Federation's another popular one that folks have used, that Rancher Resilience Grant.
Well, the other issue can be, for some of us, we're entering a very busy time of year, and sometimes it's just difficult to get away from the farm or ranch. But you all do have some online programming that we can take advantage of as well. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. Number one, back to Cattlemen's College, we do record those sessions and make them available online for a small fee. You can access that library. So you can check that out if you saw some speakers there that you really want to hear, but you didn't make it. We also have a webinar series that we've been rolling on for 5 or 6 years now. That's become really popular. We record those as well, so they can be reviewed after the fact. We did one on just this spring. We've done vaccination technology. We've done several around genetics, and then we just had one more on the whole issue of carbon credits and how folks should be approaching that. We've done one of those each of the last 2 years. That's been such a hot topic. Yeah. So a lot of good information online as well.
And again, they can go to the website, right?
That's right. It's under the producer tab, like most of the stuff I've been talking about at ncba.org.
Fantastic. Josh, thank you for everything you and your team does for our industry.
Well, we enjoy it every day, trying to add value for producers.
You bet. Now, to find out more about the programs Josh talked about and all the education information available to beef producers, just visit ncba.org and click on the Producer tab at the top of the page.
Improving the genetics of your cow herd is one key to stronger performance and profitability. In South Dakota, a number of producers are using Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics to add value to their cow-calf operations.
I want a female that's going to work in our environment, in our locale and so forth. So I like the Balancer cow because she's a moderate frame cow. I want them to get bred every year, and Gelbvieh does a good job of breeding early and early maturing.
The Gelbvieh and Balancer give us a big advantage as, just a good mothering cow. Bulls do well. Black cows are deep-sided. They give us good calves. They're heavy calves coming off of grass. They go to feed well. They winter well.
We can see the Gelbvieh with its maternal side for replacement heifers, but we also capitalize on that carcass that Gelbvieh brings. So, if we find a bull that it's maternally sound with carcass data, it's a no-brainer. You've capitalized on both for what we do. So that's why Gelbvieh is a very good fit for us.
One of the reasons that these guys use Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics is for the maternal strength of the breed. The females make tremendous cows, and they have excellent fertility. They reach puberty early. The breed up and then the breed back is exceptional. And that's really important for cow-calf producers. And then you think about longevity and these cows lasting 6 years and more in a herd. They really pay for themselves. The longer they last, the more money that is in a rancher's pocket.
Each year, a cow earns her keep by raising a good, healthy calf. And these producers see real value in the calves that result from the Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics.
Very much so. You get that good deep-sided cow, good milk, that raises a big calf here in September. We've got good-sized calves and no creep feed. We do not creep feed our calves. We feel that cows are doing a good job, and we wean them early and can go into the feedlot with them.
We notice the feed efficiency. When these cattle go on feed, they really start to explode. We can see in open lots, it's nothing for us to have a 4.5 pound gain a day on these cattle.
Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics can be the smart, reliable, profitable choice for cow-calf producers, no matter whether they're selling calves at weaning or after a backgrounding period, or if they're retaining ownership through the feedlot.
In fact, many of the producers who feed out their Gelbvieh and Balancer calves are taking home premiums for the quality beef they're raising.
Several of these guys also market their cattle on grids or value-based marketing programs. They retain ownership of their feedlot cattle all the way to the end. And so when they go to market these cattle to a packer, it's really important that they can sell weight. Hot carcass weight pays, pounds pay everybody. And then it's important for the cattle to reach a high quality grade with a high percent grading choice and prime.
The Gelbvieh and Balancer cattle, what they've done for our operation is by selecting the right bulls, we've been able to go all the way through the end product and produce a product that brings the premium dollars. My carcass results for 2022, we marketed a little over 1,200 head of animals. We had a 930 pound carcass weight. We had 28% prime with 97% being choice and prime.
When we first started going with Gelbvieh and Balancer bulls, that is when we started noticing these premiums increase. It went up and up every year. Some of our carcass data that we've gotten back last year was phenomenal. We hauled out 4 loads of fat cattle, and on those 4 loads of fat cattle, they went 97% choice or better. The premiums that we pick up, that's just extra money in our pocket.
More pounds and a higher percentage of cattle grading choice and prime, a recipe for premium profit opportunities. If you'd like to learn more about the advantages of Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics, then visit the American Gelbvieh Association website at gelbvieh.org.
Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll share some practical advice that can help you build your own risk management plan or refine your current strategy. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for proven genetics that pay? Then look to Gelbvieh and Balancer.
The Gelbvieh and Balancer cattle, what they've done for our operation is by selecting the right bulls, we've been able to go all the way through the end product and really produce a product that brings the premium dollars.
Gelbvieh and Balancer genetics deliver more pounds of calf weaned and heavier carcass weights.
Pounds pay everybody. And then it's important for the cattle to reach a high quality grade with a high percent grading choice and prime.
When we first started going with Gelbvieh and Balancer bulls, that is when we started noticing these premiums increase. The premiums that we pick up, that's just extra money in our pocket.
Make the smart, reliable, and profitable choice with Gelbvieh and Balancer. Find out more at gelbvieh.org.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Extreme swings in the cattle markets can test even the most skilled and prepared producers. These challenges highlight the need for farmers and ranchers to understand and utilize all the risk management tools available. So what are some of the steps you can take to protect yourself and your cattle business? Michaela Klauser has more from Kentucky.
My journey to learn more about how farmers and ranchers are managing risk took me to Lawson Farms in central Kentucky. Nathan Lawson and his wife Wanda started their business here in 2005.
My wife and I were both raised in agriculture, both on farms in central Kentucky. We have 3 kids, Addison, Jaden, and Journey, and we raise beef cattle, a commercial cow-calf herd, and also raise corn and soybeans, and lots of hay that goes with that cow herd.
Farming close to Louisville can bring challenges and opportunities. The Lawsons took advantage of their location by selling their beef directly to consumers as a way to generate extra income.
We realized very quickly that here in Louisville Shadow, with the high cost of land, we quickly needed to find a way to retain more profit out of a calf. It wasn't going to cut it just selling calves at weaning off the farm. We had to find a way to really capture more opportunities for profit in that calf from birth to finish. And so we started selling our first beeves off the farm in about 2006, and it really grew from there primarily through word of mouth. One of the opportunities that we took advantage of early on was a cooperative extension course through our local cooperative extension service that gave us the chance to learn how to develop a website. Fast forward to today, we were able to grow steadily to the point where we have had a really good retention of our customer base. And most consumers really want to know us. They want a relationship with someone, they want to be able to trust someone, and ultimately we have a really good product.
So risk management is such a broad topic, that can span from those day-to-day production practices to, like you mentioned, direct-to-consumer marketing and some of your marketing strategies. Can you kind of share a little bit about your tools and resources that you've used kind of across the spectrum?
Sure. I really feel like that when we think about risk management, we have to think of it as a toolbox, and we need tools to put into that box to be able to combat those challenges. And so there are a lot of resources out there, and I feel like that for us, education and awareness has been a key piece. When we think about those education and resources, folks like the Cooperative Extension Service come to mind, but also the Farm Service Agency and the U.S. Department of Agriculture offices here in our communities. We all report our crops, and so crop producers are familiar with those offices because of that process. As cattle producers, we don't tend to get into those offices quite as often, But I think that that's something that's changing. And so we've worked hard to develop relationships and truly friendships with the folks that we work with at the FSA office. And that helps us maintain an awareness of any potential risk mitigating program that might be available to combat unforeseen losses when we think of natural disasters like wildfires or even in our area tornadoes and drought, lightning, things that we can't control. Those programs are available and out there. One of the things that I think is really important for us as cattle producers is to look into insurance products. Friends and neighbors in the cropping world are very familiar with crop insurance. Well, beef farmers and ranchers produce crops too, and that's our calves. And so we need to be able to capture an opportunity to purchase a product that's going to help us mitigate risk in market losses, ebbs and flows, ups and downs in the cattle market when we market our calf crop, to be able to help us have confidence in growing those calves and the inputs that we're putting into them, but also peace of mind.
So you mentioned insurance programs. Are you referring to the Livestock Risk Protection Program?
Yes,
so
correct.
Using LRP, there's been a recent update. How have you implemented that in your operation, and what benefits have you seen from that program?
Great question, Michaela. Livestock risk protection insurance has really become a competitive product to be able to manage our downside market risk in the cattle business. And so, I've found myself that purchasing LRP insurance for my calf crop, which is available at different stages of growth in the calf, different weight ranges and different classes of cattle, from calves on the cow that'll be marketed post-weaning to yearling cattle that are going to be in that 800 to 900 pound range, when they're marketed. There's a whole host of products available. And so what I feel like that does for us as producers is it infuses confidence into our marketing approach. Insurance gives us some peace of mind. It gives us some confidence in raising those calves to know that that product's purchased on those calves. We have that piece in place to protect our downside risk in the market. And so I would encourage beef producers across the country to seek out a reputable insurance agent in their area that is offering the LRP insurance products, and just sit down and have a conversation with them. They may even take you out to lunch to talk over LRP insurance and spend some time to learn and get your mind around how that works, because it truly is price risk insurance. You're insuring the price of the cattle versus the cattle, in their rate of growth or necessarily them directly. You're hedging the price of those calves when you're getting ready to market them within a window. So it's a good product.
So Nathan, with all of that, what is your key message to your fellow cow-calf producers in terms of implementing risk management strategies?
To have a plan. Even as cow-calf producers, we can develop a risk management plan and have those tools in the toolbox to be able to help us have confidence in marketing our calves, our calf crop, and also reduce anxiety and stress from the marketing process. And so a key part of that is to maintain flexibility, to be able to pivot and take advantage of opportunities that exist for us, and then also seek out a reputable insurance agent that can help you capture the opportunity to reduce your risk through an LRP policy and have that confidence in raising and marketing those calves.
Thank you for sharing such great insight and information with us today.
My pleasure, Michaela. Thank you.
Still ahead, we'll take a look at the Beef Quality Assurance Program and its value to the beef industry. That story when we return.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Jesse Fulton. Today I want to talk to you about transportation. Each year, millions of cattle are transported across the United States. Whether it be a bumper pull trailer, a gooseneck trailer, or a cattle pot going down the roadway, these act as big billboards for the beef industry. So in order to ensure consumer confidence, we need to ensure our animals are fit for transport. When assessing fitness for transport of our cattle, we are looking at three things: the health status of the animal, to ensure that we are not causing any biosecurity issues, the mobility score of the animal, and the body condition score of the animal, to ensure these animals are able to withstand the rigors of transport. To find out more about transportation, the Beef Quality Assurance Program, or the Beef Quality Assurance Transportation Program, go to bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program and its guidelines serve as the foundation for most of NCBA's producer education efforts. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Russell Nemitz has more on this important program.
You know, beef quality assurance is becoming more and more important to the entire U.S. beef cattle industry, and of course those men and women across America who are raising our high quality and delicious beef. BQA is also a top priority at the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and joining us now is one of their stockmanship experts, Todd McCartney. And Todd, first of all, let's just remind folks what beef quality assurance really is.
I could probably sum it up real simply. To me, beef quality assurance, they're a set of guidelines that'll help us do the right thing, right? And we're rewarded for that. Sometimes monetarily, but most often just in the demand for our beef. We're sending the message to the customer, the consumer, we're doing a good job, we're doing what's right. So we fortunately have guidelines that we can use chute side, in the pasture, in the corrals, management tips that just make sense, that don't cost anything. For the most part, they don't cost to do the right thing, yet they reap big rewards. So it's simple.
You know, and a lot of times, Todd, cattle producers are already doing a lot of what BQA is really asking of folks.
I love that. I love that it's almost become a little bit of a stigma when you don't. In other words, you're doing things a certain way on the ranch and you got your hands on board, and it's common practice to do these management strategies and techniques and all. And then you go to another outfit and one of your hands will say, "Did you see what he did?" I love that it's become a little bit of a bad deal when you see them not being implemented. So it tells me that the norm is to do things right. And man, that's the message we need to send to the consumer.
Well, each year here at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, you and Ron and Dean and Kurt spend a lot of time on BQA type practices during these live cattle demonstrations. But throughout the year, you also focus on them through NCBA's Stockmanship and Stewardship program and the different events held around the country.
Indeed. That's beautiful that it's here at convention, but it also travels around the country. And what's great is we are very prepared when we do those, because it's what we're doing every day. So it's not a big deal to load up and go do one of those, because we're saying, hey, here's what the norm is. Here's how we do it. It's very fluid, it's very natural, and we're able to communicate to people, this is just the right thing to do.
Well, and it's also encouraging from what I've seen, not just here at convention, but at some of those other events around the country, is more and more producers are actually getting excited about learning how to properly implement BQA type practices.
I may be letting down to my age a little bit, but it's cool. It's cool for folks to do it right, and they get excited about it. It's neat that we're seeing cattle sold and the seller is identified as these cattle come from a beef quality assurance certified herd. That sends a message to the buyer, not just to the consumer down the road, but to the buyer saying, hey, these cattle were handled right. That means a lot.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate the insight as always, Todd, on BQA, and thank you so much for what you do each and every year, not just here at convention, but of course throughout the entire year.
It's a joy, and a thank you to you and your crew and the media in NCBA that gets this out, because we can only talk to so many people, but you reach millions.
Well, absolutely. And again, as Todd mentioned, hey, it's cool to be part of the Beef Quality Assurance Program. So you can learn more about implementing BQA on your farms or ranches, or just learn more about BQA itself, Beef Quality Assurance, by visiting them online at bqa.org.
Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll tell you about a great partnership that makes it easier for producers to attend educational events. That story when we return.
There's never a dull moment for the Nelsons. Fifth-generation Montana ranchers. Since 1868, they've been herding cattle, reeling in trout, and exploring Paradise Valley from their backyard. Here's to another 150 years of adventure. There's a story in every piece of land. Run with us on a John Deere Gator XUV and start telling yours.
Support U.S. beef cattle farmers and ranchers, and you could win a John Deere Premium Cab Gator. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association is offering the chance to win this ultimate off-road vehicle. Scan the special QR code just for Cattlemen to Cattlemen viewers to go to the sweepstakes website and enter today. See the website for complete official rules. No payment necessary, void where prohibited.
As we've highlighted throughout this show, producer education continues to be a priority for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Matt Fleck has a look at a special grant that makes it easier for members of the beef industry to attend these valuable events.
Shauna Bratton has deep roots in agriculture. Her family has been farming in this part of Virginia for more than 150 years.
Bratton Farms has been in existence actually since 1769. One of the Brattons from over in England, Robert Bratton, came over and settled here in 1769. So we have been actively farming that part of the property along with some others since then. Over the years, we've been fortunate enough to expand, and we have beef cattle and sheep on our operations. We do background our own calves during the winter months and then sell them in the spring.
The situation is different at Patriot Farms in North Carolina. Jason Lee Gordon and his wife are first-generation farmers and don't have nearly as much history with agriculture.
My wife and I are first-generation farmers. Basically, grew up in subdivisions, and we always wanted more. We wanted to do more with our lives. We decided to try and get into farming, and we love the land more than anything, and we realized that the cattle are a big part of it and creating a healthy ecosystem. So cattle are just a natural fit for what we want to do as land stewards.
Off to the west, in Texas, Sean Kerr just recently returned to ranching after several years away from agriculture.
I grew up on an alfalfa ranch farm and said I'd never do agriculture again. And then I walked by the TV one night and saw this advertisement for property in Lampasas, Texas. And I looked at my wife and I was like, don't even know where that's at, but I want to do this. So I got their information off the TV. I went and put it in, and we came out here and we purchased. I decided that my business model was going to be a direct-to-consumer type business model. We started by processing our first steer in October He's not for sale. He's being used as our test market. And but come February, March, we'll start producing for sale. So that's our goal.
One thing these three families have in common is the desire to learn and grow by discovering new techniques to better manage their operations. They have all traveled to in-person educational events to gather practical advice from industry experts.
I think you learn better in person. You tend to retain it more than just grazing over it in a email or even a catalog. Listening to somebody about something that you're passionate to, it tends to stick a little better.
By meeting people from other areas of the country, you learn that they have many of the same challenges as what you do have on your own farm operation. It gives you a fresh perspective and helps you to see things from a different viewpoint. And with that viewpoint, you can come back and you can look at the changes that you need to make on your own farm.
Getting to meet people, getting to talk to people, getting to see how other people do what I want to do, which is to produce beef, was valuable to me.
Through a partnership with the National Cattlemen's Foundation and Cargill Protein, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association offers the Rancher Resilience Grant, which cattle producers can apply for to help offset some of the cost of attending educational events.
The Ranchers Resilience Grant covers registration and hotel costs for producers. It is a reimbursement process, so producers will need to register and pay for the event, but then we reimburse that registration cost and their hotel costs.
Our local extension agent told us about the Ranchers Resilience Grant and how it could help us to go to the class that we went to at the National Grazing Lands Conference. It really gave us the money that we needed to be able to step away from the farm and make that trip worthwhile.
With that grant, that helped with registration for the conference, the different conference fees, and allowed me to attend lots of different sessions on grazing management, and I could bring that knowledge back to Virginia.
If somebody says there's a grant out there, well, I apply, because at the end of the day, it's opportunity to learn, it's the opportunity to get ahead.
Local, state, and national events qualify for the Rancher Resilience Grant, and the application is easy to complete.
You apply through a short application. You need to complete the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef modules, and then you attend the event and you fill out a survey, submit a photo. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. However, we are always available to answer any questions you might have.
It was easy to apply for on the website. There were some education modules that you needed to complete, but those were valuable to me, and it was an easy process.
It didn't take long at all. I think it took me 20 minutes, 25 minutes to get the application completed. I found it to be a very easy application. Definitely recommend it to anybody who's needing educational opportunities.
So whether you're new to the beef business or been around for decades, the Rancher Resilience Grant can help you attend valuable programs and training sessions that can improve the profitability of your business.
It covers a wide array of industry events, such as breed association conventions, our NCBA events. You know, it's a really wide spectrum and a great opportunity, and we really hope to encourage producers to utilize the grant.
It's always hard to find time to get away from the farm, but with the Ranchers Resilience Grant, that gives you an opportunity to get off the farm, go view other parts of the country, learn more about ideas you can bring back to your own farm.
As a new farmer and being tight on cash, the Ranchers Resilience Grant was the big help for us. I would encourage anybody to use it on an event to actually learn something that could benefit them for the rest of their life.
I'm Matt Fleck, reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
For more information on how you can apply for the Ranchers Resilience Grant, go to the website ncba.org and click on the Producers tab. All of us in the beef industry are working to produce cattle that are resilient, efficient, and profitable. This involves careful breeding and selection of superior genetics, as well as providing the best possible nutrition and health care. Russell Nemitz has more on how genetic improvement and top-notch management can combine to create long-term success.
Well, one of the highlights at this year's Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show here in Houston were the live cattle sessions at the demonstration arena. And this year, one of the presenters was Dr. Bob Weber from Kansas State University. And Dr. Weber, you were talking to these folks and showing them about a very important topic. How do we build better cattle? How important of a topic is this, and what were some of the highlights from your presentation?
Sure, Russell, thanks. The focus on our presentation was really to help producers feel more comfortable about evaluating feet and leg structure in beef cattle. We've seen, kind of over time, and I'm a big proponent of EPDs and selection indexes tools, but as we get maybe more focused on that, sometimes we have a tendency to take our eye off other things. And feet and leg structure is one from an animal welfare standpoint and a production standpoint that's really important to our business. And so Shane Bedwell, my co-presenter from the American Hereford Association, and I tried to help focus producers on feet and leg scoring and how that can improve their cattle operation.
During a presentation like this, you're able to actually walk cattle through and show them what you're talking about. How important is it to have a facility like this and a live cattle session and a demonstration arena like this where you don't just get to talk about it, but you get to show them?
Well, I think the producers really appreciate the hands-on opportunities, and I know as a presenter, these are the most fun presentations I get to do because you've got cattle and people all together in a teaching environment. It's a great setup, great technology to help try to illustrate what we're talking about. These kind of opportunities are pretty rare, and particularly for a big crowd, and so having that interaction is really, really valuable.
Well, and of course, longevity in the beef cattle industry is super important, and getting as many years out of your cattle as you possibly can is so important. And by the sounds of it, while we were watching, I mean, the interaction with the crowd was pretty cool this year.
Yeah, it was outstanding, actually. And so we had, when you do a set of audience response at the end of the talk, it's a pretty good gauge whether you hit the mark or not. And we had really great engagement. And so we were glad for the participation, and really appreciated producers, dragging out their cell phone and doing the texting thing. So,
well, we kind of joke about it, but a lot of times we come to these things, they're provided to us. You can give all the tools you can possibly to cattlemen and cattlewomen, but at the end of the day, it's up to them to go home and really apply what they've learned on their own operations.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, we tried to spend a fair bit of time, Shane and I, kind of thinking through the talk to sort of help motivate that, so that they go home, they've got a little bit of skill set built here, and hopefully, go home and apply the feet and leg scoring in their commercial or seed stock operations and help collect some more data, and most importantly, make good selection decisions.
Any other highlights from your presentation this year here in Houston?
Well, I think the big thing is that feet and leg traits are heritable, right? So we can make genetic improvement in those traits. We just have to include them in our selection criteria, and so that means spending time and putting our eyeballs on the feet and making good judgment.
So last question then, Dr. Weber, for those that couldn't be with us here in Houston to hear or see what you told these folks here in Texas, is there any resources out there where we can find more information?
Sure, there's sort of a range of, if somebody wants the real in-depth scientific paper, email me, I'll be glad to send that. But many of the breed associations are actively working in this space. So I know the American Angus Association has foot and leg scoring rubric, IGS and Simmental and Red Angus groups are also working to deploy actually some of the research that we did. And so there's a growing body of information on feet and leg scoring, including some video development work going on to help people build that skill set.
Well, we appreciate you being with us on Cattlemen to Cattlemen as always.
Great. Thanks, Russell.
Dr. Bob Weber with Kansas State University, one of this year's presenters here at the Zoetis Cattlemen's College, the live cattle session on a very important topic, how can we build better cattle? And of course, a very important topic to be profitable in today's U.S. beef cattle industry.
Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll discuss mental health in rural America and let you know where you can go for some help. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
CattleCon 24 is marching onward to Orlando, January 31st to February 2nd, 2024. Have your say in the future of the industry, network with fellow producers, or connect with friendly faces. Plus, the NCBA Trade Show will be on site with over 385,000 square feet of the latest and greatest in the cattle business to help your operation stay competitive and sustainable. Learn more at convention.ncba.org.
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association would like to thank our gold partners. Their support allows us to continue being the trusted leader and definitive voice of the U.S. cattle and beef industry.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, this is Libby Bigler here to give you a beef quality assurance tip on record keeping. Record keeping is a key principle of beef quality assurance, and in general, it's just a good business management practice. You'll often hear the statement that you can't manage what you don't measure, and in BQA terms, record keeping is the way that you can manage all of your animal performance indicators like reproductive status, health, age, and you can compare those things year over year to make better management decisions in the future. Record keeping doesn't have to be complicated, but in order for it to be useful, make sure that you keep accurate, timely, and thorough records. For more information about record keeping, you can always visit bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
In recent years, a number of organizations have started to focus more on mental health and mental health resources for people living in rural communities. Here's Russell Nemitz with more on this important topic.
Well, unfortunately, there's a silent epidemic underway in rural America. But thankfully, this silent epidemic was addressed by a New York dairy farmer during Cattlemen's College here at the Cattle Industry Convention in New Orleans. With us is Jeff Winton with Rural Minds, again, a New York dairy farmer. And it's a tough topic to talk about a lot of times in rural America, Jeff, but mental illness is a real issue and comes in many forms.
Yes, it certainly is. And what we attempt to tell people, including the audience today, is that mental illness is an illness, very much like cancer and cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And so we need to start normalizing conversations. Even though it is difficult, it should be looked upon as a disease like all the other illnesses that we do feel comfortable talking about.
Well, you told this audience, as difficult of an issue that it is to understand, there are lots of warning signs out there that we all need to pay attention to.
Yeah, some of the warning signs, especially on farms, is if a farmer or rancher decides to sell his cattle or equipment very abruptly. That's normally a warning sign that something's happening. If a farm that's normally very meticulously kept and maintained all of a sudden starts to look like it's in disrepair, that can be a warning sign. If a person who is normally very outgoing and exuberant is all of a sudden withdrawn and becomes very quiet and keeps to themselves, that many times can be a warning sign that they're dealing with a mental illness as well.
With that said, Jeff, how do we advance mental health and start addressing mental illness in all of its different forms? And in many cases, it always isn't just suicide. I mean, there's different forms of mental illness. So how do we advance overall mental health, especially in rural America?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the key thing we tell people is to make certain that stories that have impacted individuals get told. I told the audience today about the death of my nephew who died by suicide when he was 28 years old, and a dairy farmer. And by my family being open and talking about that, it allowed and gave permission to many other farm families in our area of upstate New York to start being more open and transparent about what their families had been through. Every person has a story to tell. Everyone knows someone that lives with and is on a journey of mental illness. But until such time that we become comfortable telling those stories and sharing those, it's going to be very difficult to get beyond this emergency situation we find ourselves in rural America.
Well, it truly is a silent and real epidemic, Jeff. And let's just wrap up talking about it's real, It's out there. It's affecting more people than we probably even can imagine. But bottom line, help is available.
There is plenty of help available, and that's one of the things that we are attempting to do through Rural Minds. It's on our website. We have an aggregation of all of the resources at ruralminds.org, where people can go and find information that exists, training courses that exist, and people have been working in this area for many, many years, but it just hasn't been necessarily geared towards rural audiences until we launched our organization. So our goal is not to reinvent the wheel and create material that already exists, but most importantly, we're trying to get it in the hands of the people that we serve, that we represent, in the 60 million people that live in small towns across this country.
Well, we very much appreciate you being one of this year's speakers here at Cattlemen's College during the Cattle Industry Convention here in New Orleans. And please keep up the good work out there in helping all of us realize mental illness is a real issue, but more importantly, mental health is available.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Again, we've been talking with Jeff Winton with Rural Minds. Again, his main job is actually a New York dairy farmer, but we can't thank him enough for being one of this year's presenters here at the Cattle Industry Convention. And as I've mentioned, folks, please, if you or someone you know is struggling, just ask for help, because your mental health and your life matters. Plenty of resources out there, as Jeff mentioned, his website, ruralminds.org, and the suicide and crisis hotline is 988.
Now, if you or someone you know is suicidal or in emotional distress, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That's 1-800-273-8255. You can also dial 988 on your cell phone for 24/7 support. In addition, you can also find a compilation of free mental health resources at ruralminds.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll share some cattle handling tips from a recent stockmanship and stewardship event. Don't go away. We'll have more right after this.
By installing Ritchie waterers, you save water while keeping it fresh and always available to your animals. You protect the land by keeping natural water clean and soil healthy. And you conserve power because they're energy efficient. We're committed to helping you create a prosperous, sustainable, and regenerative future, because we know, like you know, that every saved drop matters. Ritchie, fresh water for life.
Safe and effective cattle handling can lower the risk of injury and improve performance. Those are two things that can have major impacts on your bottom line. Here are some valuable tips on working cattle that were offered at a recent stockmanship and stewardship event in Virginia.
Are fight or flight animals. There's two basic factors that factor into how they're going to respond to environmental stimuli. So we have genetics. Then there's also learned behavior. So cattle can learn by experience, they can learn by watching other cattle. So we want to take that learned behavior and make it a good experience, because we can teach cattle to fear us, or we can teach cattle to work with us. So we'll start with the flight zone. The flight zone is the area around the cattle where once you step into, it creates movement. Then there's also the point of balance. The point of balance is around the shoulder region, but really depends on the eye. Cattle really have to see you for this all to work. Once you walk past, and cattle always want to move to the area of least pressure, and they are pressure release learners. So if I have the eye of my cattle right here and I'm going to walk past that eye towards its tail, it wants to go back past me. So that's one point of balance. Now, most of us, where do we like to go when we empty a pen? To the back of the pen, right? But then you get a bottleneck and nobody wants to move, and all you do is hit the back of the herd, and the front of the herd's not going anywhere. So what we try to do is the handler will work from the front of the pen to empty that pen. We'll walk past the flight zone of one, get it moving. Walk past the flight zone of another, get it moving. Slowly keeping that nice calm demeanor, your cows aren't stressed, you'll get the herd instinct and you'll empty that pen quicker than you ever have. Parallel movement is used sometimes to slow the herd or stop the herd. You're moving parallel to their point of balance, so they stop and look at you. So you can give them either go that way, or maybe I'm going to stop you and I'm going to do something different and change direction. And I will point out right now that whether you call it low stress cattle handling, good stockmanship, every clinician, every person is going to approach it differently. And it doesn't mean they're right or wrong, but I do encourage you to listen to everyone. Go out and see anything you can. Take the little tidbit that works for you and try to apply it to get a positive result.
To find out more about all the great educational programs the National Cattlemen's Beef Association offers, just visit ncba.org and click on the Producers tab at the top of the page. While you're there, you should also consider becoming a member. NCBA staff in Washington, D.C. and Denver work every day to protect cattle-producing families all across the country. Joining could be one of the best decisions you make for your cattle operation and our entire beef industry. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.